Hey, what's going on, fam? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. 5 things that we know after Nick Saban tested positive for COVID-19. Be sure and like and subscribe. Wanted to come on here and kind of provide some context following the shocking news yesterday in the college football world that Nick Saban, along with Alabama Athletic Director Greg Byrne, have tested positive for COVID-19 and what it means for this weekend's game. A lot of people are asking, is Saban going to really be sidelined for this weekend's game? And it looks like it. My understanding is that to override a positive COVID test, you have to be tested 3 times, 24 hours apart, and all have to be negative. So if any news does drop within these next 24 to 48 hours, we'll bring that right to you here on Bama Insider. But again, to override a positive, you have to be tested 3 times, 24 hours apart, and all have to be negative. Now, Nick Saban said in his statement, at this time, I do not have any symptoms relative to COVID, and I've taken another PCR test to confirm my diagnosis. We haven't got the follow-up on that PCR test. So we're trying to kind of wait, be patient, and see if any other news drops from the University of Alabama. Now, Nick Saban continued in his statement that offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian will oversee preparations at the complex while I work from home. Steve Sarkisian, as you know, is Alabama's offensive coordinator. He's been so over the last couple of seasons. During 2009 to 2013, Sarkisian was the head coach at Washington. Following that, Sarkisian was the head coach at USC from 2014 to 2015. Remember, he came back to Alabama for a brief stint, then went to the Atlanta Falcons, and he was the OC, and then he came back to Alabama as the offensive coordinator, where he's done a fantastic job. I think we've seen a lot of growth from Steve Sarkisian, and we've seen a lot of growth from Alabama's offense over the last couple of years. Just think what he did with Tua Tagovailoa, and now what he's doing with Mac Jones. I think the offense certainly has a lot of continuity because of the fact that he is back for an additional season. We haven't seen a guy from the offensive coordinator position return for a consecutive season, actually, since Lane Kiffin did it. So Sarkisian, certainly the guy with the most head coaching experience that's currently within the paid assistants, right? Now, I'm not counting the analysts because, of course, you have Butch Jones, you have Charlie Strong, even Mike Stoops, who's an analyst. All those guys have some sort of head coaching experience. I think if Sarkisian is able to lead Alabama past Georgia, Sarkisian could be a guy, I think long-term, that Alabama might even look to potentially one day replace Nick Saban. Now, of course, that's, hypothetical, and that's a long-term. I don't see Nick Saban really stepping down at any point within the next couple of years. How about you? I mean, maybe that's a video for another time. But my point is, if Sarkisian, who's already a highly sought-out assistant coach, and one day will be a head coach again, in my opinion, Sarkisian leading Alabama past Georgia will basically continue to build up Sarkisian's resume. I think Sarkisian, as we know, fell from USC, but he worked his way back. And now look what he's doing and will be the interim head coach on Saturday against Georgia. So if he beats Kirby Smart and retains Alabama's and Nick Saban's perfect record against assistant coaches, I mean, I think that's going to resonate strongly across the world of college football. The only other coach that is currently on, within the 10 coaches that Alabama has is Kyle Flood, who was a head coach at Rutgers from 2012 to 2015. Okay, moving on. Number 3. So can Saban coach from his house? A lot of people have been asking about what are the rules? Can Coach Saban get on the phone? Can he be on some sort of Zoom or computer? And the short answer is no, he cannot. Exact rule is basically it begins 90 minutes before the scheduled kickoff, when the officiating crew assumes jurisdiction of the game, and that's between the periods until the end of the game when the referee declares the score final. So long story short, Saban cannot coach from his house. Once we enter that 90-minute window and the officials take over, Saban cannot communicate with his staff at all. So he's just going to have to ride this out with the rest of us or whoever's not going to the game and watch the game on TV. Okay. So remember this, per NCAA rules, Alabama can add an on-the-field coach in Saban's absence. Yes, we talked about the fact that Sarkisian is going to be the interim coach, but that will allow Alabama to add one of their analysts to either an on-the-field or up in the box as one of their 10 coaches, right? And you kind of look at the roster and it almost makes sense that it's just going to be Charlie Strong. A lot of people have been asking for him just to straight up be the defensive coordinator. And whether he's going to be on the box or down on the field, I don't even know if it's going to be Charlie Strong. But you got to think Nick Saban being a defensive-minded coach, it only makes sense, right? You have Mike Stoops and you have Charlie Strong as analysts. I think the clear answer is you go with Charlie Strong. From 1999 to 2002, Charlie Strong was at South Carolina as a defensive coordinator. From 2003 to 2004, he was at Florida as a defensive coordinator. Now, as a head coach, Charlie Strong from 2010 to 2013 was at Louisville. From 2014 to 2016, he was at Texas as a head coach. And most recently, he was a head coach from 2017 to 2019 at South Florida. So I think we'll all be looking for signs of Charlie Strong on the field or in the box come Saturday against Georgia. Now, this is a very important next point. No Alabama players have tested positive for COVID-19, and that's through October 15th. That's great news. I mean, think about it. These guys are being tested every single day, and all the players are healthy and good to go. So, yes, while the GOAT is sidelined at home, all the players will be available. And really, if you look at it overall, Alabama has been very healthy, and this hasn't been the case over the last couple seasons. Alabama's always had some sort of nagging injuries or some guys out with season-long injuries, and that's not the case this year. The only player that's really out is Ronald Williams, who has a fractured arm. Should be available, I would say, maybe in the next 3 or 4 weeks. You also have Jordan Battle. He's going to be out. He's an Alabama starting safety. He had a targeting call in the second half of the Ole Miss game, so he will not be available for this first half of the game against Georgia. But other than that, Alabama is very healthy coming into this game, which is very important considering what's at stake this weekend, taking on a very, very talented Georgia Bulldogs team. All right. Will this game take place finally? All signs continue to point to yes, and I think that's the right call. I think we have to navigate around difficult things that happen, whether they're on the football field or in life. Bad things happen. We have to navigate and push forward. So I think going forward with the game is the right thing to do. What's your call? Should this game take place this Saturday? I want to hear from you inside the comment box. Can't wait to catch up with you during our tailgate show, which will be Friday night. And then, of course, our watch party on Saturday. And then the post-game show right here on Bama Insider. Reporting from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, this is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com.